EuroFM podcast. FM without frontiers.
Hello everyone and welcome. You are listening to the EuroFM podcast. We are recording live from the workplace event in the National Exhibition Centre in Birmingham. My name is Vera and I'm your host today. Here with me is the chair of EuroFM, Natalie Hofman, and our special guests, Bernard Crouch and Sarah Orpwood. We'll start with a short introduction round. Natalie, would you like to go first?
Yes, thank you for your introduction. My name is Natalie Hofman. I'm the chair of EuroFM now for almost more than 2.5 years. And I'm a professional for facility management in the Netherlands and also helping to let the community of facility management grow. So that's me.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sarah Orpwood. I have 2 hats. My first hat is National Facilities Manager for Maritime. I head up their FM department for over 40 depots in the UK, and we have recently gone global. My second hat is I'm EuroFM Midlands Committee Chair, and working with the team to grow and develop the community of FMs and promote FM as a career of choice within the next generation.
Perfect, thank you.
Hi, I'm Bernard Crouch and I'm a facilities management consultant. I've been for about 18 years now. I also wear several hats, so I am on the Institute Workplace and Facilities Management Risings Committee, where we're encouraging young people to come into the industry and to come to our events and participate in our training and CPD and so on. And also on the CIBSE, Chartered Institute of Building Surveyors, Surveying Engineers, where again I organise events, and that's more for the more perhaps mature M&E FMs in the industry.
Perfect, thank you so much, all of you, for your introduction. So today in our podcast, we are tapping into some different sustainability discussions. And I'll just start with the first question. Sustainability is a broad topic, but from your FM perspective, Natalie, what do you see as the most urgent sustainability challenge facing the FM industry today?
Well, I think what you see also in Europe, but also in my country, is that sustainable, what is it? It's not only a marketing term, but it's also that you need to change your behavior, you change your organization. It's not only about lowering carbon emissions, but it's also about the employee experience. How do we get new ways of working? How do we gather with things like culture, things like waste? And I think for the FM industry, it's difficult to know what you need to do because it's so wide and so big and you need to know everything about it. And the knowledge, we don't have it all in our heads already. So we need to speed up with our knowledge and need to speed up and learn our facility managers what they need to do and what they need to be involved in. So for me, that's what is the most important one. Maybe one of you, how is that in the UK?
I was just thinking that I was agreeing with what you were saying there. I can really resonate. What you were saying resonates with me, because I think the difficulty for FM is when you were saying it's difficult to know what to deliver impacts, and to get that kind of data is always a good indicator of how well you're doing. But what are the it's almost like you need a playbook for FMs, and some examples of some quick wins, some things that are both immediate, medium and long term. So what do they look like? A little bit of help and guidance. And I think we need to perhaps collaborate more with the institutes within the Environmental Institute, so that we work alongside rather than in silos. at Maritime, we have an environmental advisor, and she's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I think we need to, and this is on me, that I need to collaborate with her more, and I think we need to work more so that we produce what's needed for the wider business, and then obviously the impact that has on the government, the impact that it has on our targets, and also I think what's really important is making it personal and relevant to our people, because certain initiatives aren't necessarily going to be successful unless you involve people. And how and why should they change their habits? What's the benefit to them? So making it personal and relative.
So I'd say we've got two challenges in the UK. I think the waste management companies are doing a great job at improving how they deal with recycling. But one of the areas I'd suggest where we fail quite often is the end user not really understanding about recycling bins. And it changes from one location to another. So one location there's put everything that's recyclable in this one bin. At another location, it'll be glass in this bin, plastic in that bin. They get confused and they end up putting the wrong things in the wrong bin. And then that makes it very hard for the recyclers to actually, they've got to spend time segregating and sorting the waste. And indeed, it might be tainted. They can't, cardboard, for instance, once it's been mixed with the food waste, you have to throw it away. You can't actually do anything with it. And the second one that strikes me is building and fit out waste. And I just see this all the time. There's a fit out or building exercise going on. There are skips outside. There's sheets of plasterboard. There's lengths of timber. They quite rightly overorder, because when I do a project like that, I'm going to overorder. Something's going to go wrong. I'm going to need another sheet of plasterboard. I'm going to need an extra length of pipe, whatever. But it ends up in a skip. It just goes to waste. And it's really sad that we don't have some sort of system to pick up on spare, clean, new materials that come out of building sites and refurbishments.
So it's maybe also because it's not really a sexy topic.
No.
It's well, there is nobody in the facility range, management range, who's saying, "Oh wow, I love to jump on this one." So that's also, I think, if you can show, also as you are saying with data, what you can thrive with doing things and that topic, then it's nice to have, and then it's also a great one to make some results. So that will help us also.
I really agreed with what Bernard was saying about because I've seen it as well. And as much as you try to segregate and you have a skip for this kind of waste and a skip for that sort of waste, as projects ramp up and get very busy, it's like the quickest option. And I think a focus, and we're very good at, we have Vinted, don't we? So the reuse and the recycle, it's starting to come into public consciousness. Yeah. But how can we promote, and what do we need to do to, that sort of circular economy in terms of reusing first? And actually you've got some really good just unused plasterboard. Can it go to a charity? What do we need to do? And I think that is a challenge.
So I've got a photo on my phone of a company who decided to have plastic bottle-shaped bins, and it's only for plastic bottles. Oh. That's the only thing they can recycle from that bin. What did everybody do? Oh, I've got a plastic sandwich wrapper. I've got a donut. I don't know, cake in a little plastic box. Everyone's putting plastic in there, but all of that would get thrown away at the other end because it's going to a plant where they only recycle plastic bottles.
Yeah.
So people are struggling with, I want to do recycling, but I don't really understand what happens to it once it's gone in that bin.
No. And I think also what's also the problem is that on European level, every country is different.
Yes.
And I also see it at the offices. If you need to make separations in your waste, at the office is totally different than what you do at home. So there is no general way of this separating waste. And so I understand why people and employees and everybody in the organizations don't understand what to do. So.
I think it's because I would say I'm a tree hugger at heart. So I try to find out about these things. I'm not an expert in the in any sense. However, it blows my mind when you say to a colleague, well, you can't put that in the recycling, that will go to landfill now because you've not washed it out, it's not clean, it's not dry. And they're like, oh, they'll do it at the other end. It's like, where have you got that from? Because you just made it up that, they'll just clean it down the other end. It's fine. But the clue's in the title, mixed dry recycling or dry mixed recycling. But, do we need to do more engagement? And I think somebody mentioned, how do we make that engaging and sexy? How do we make a not so, dry and, about the environment again?
Yeah.
And how do we persuade the retailers to stop putting absolutely everything in plastic? In the UK, the fruit that used to be, you put it in a paper bag or whatever, it's all in plastic. Everything's in plastic. It's in plastic with a plastic lid.
Yeah.
And why? Why do I need my apples in plastic? Why do I need my oranges in plastic? My bananas? It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because you can do well within your company, but what steps are you taking to ensure that suppliers align with your sustainability commitments as well?
So obviously I'm not dealing direct, but when I'm working with my clients, we will be looking to put in into a typical tender, and it's usually the cleaning company. We'll be saying to the cleaning company, this is what we want you to do in terms of not just we're going to recycle this percentage, but there should be an increasing target. So if you win this tender, you're going to move from that percentage each year to a higher percentage. And ideally, we don't really want the waste going to waste to energy. So we don't want it going to a power station where it's burnt to create electricity. That's better than the landfill, but it's not really the right answer. And it would be better to have things recycled. It's a personal hate of mine. Every week I take things to the recycling bin, and I wonder how much of it actually gets recycled. I mean, I wash it all out and make sure it's all really nice. Hopefully the glass gets recycled. Hopefully the cardboard does. But I just wonder with all the bits of plastic, whether it's because we don't actually have the facilities in the UK. A lot of it gets exported to the Netherlands, to Germany, to Denmark. We don't have the plants to actually recycle all of these materials. And some of it gets shipped to Africa.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. Well, I think also because we're here at the workplace event in Birmingham, and what you see here also is all the small initiatives, all the small pilot organizations, the startup organizations who are having amazing ideas about how to recycle, how to think on a different way about new innovations on this topic. And that's also what I see. The big suppliers need to also engage these kind of pilots and also be here and see what is possible and how you can think the other way around and not only making the big money, but also support these small and sometimes all really, really original or new initiatives. And I think that's also good to be here and to see what's possible. There is more possible than you think.
Thank you. So I'm moving on to the next topic. Sarah, you mentioned that it's not only about the environment, but people are very important. So how can FM leaders drive social sustainability by creating healthier and more inclusive workplaces?
What? That's a tough one
I'm going
for
to have to
you.
think about that. Does anybody want to go first?
Maybe I can help you a little
Yes,
bit,
please.
because what I see in our business is that leaders also need to have a example role, and they need to stand up and yes, maybe also help to make it different. And for example, what I see is that a lot of organizations don't have a good strategy about their mobility plan. So where is our location or our office located? And what about, do I want to have my people in the office every day or not? And what's good for sustainability? Maybe it's better to do it half-half. And maybe it's better to also see if I have options for people to work at a place where the mobility is low and they don't need to use cars, or maybe also promote public transport, things like that. So that's also a role of a leader, I think.
So some of that in the UK is coming from local authorities. So a project that I've just been working on has 2,000 bike spaces and 80 showers, and the showers have a flex to them. So you can have 60% male and 40% female, and if they realise that that's not the exact mix, they can move that along and make it 20/80 or 40/60 or whatever. They can do a different mix of because there will be a lot more males cycling in than females, because it's quite scary cycling in London, and I understand why people don't want to do it. And I have roads I just won't cycle up. You know, it's like it's just too ridiculous on that road. So local authorities have been a big player in terms of that aspect, but businesses aren't always on the same agenda. And obviously we've seen some of the big tech companies saying they want people back in the office 5 days a week or whatever, and that's really bad if somebody's got a disability or perhaps has some home issues that they need to deal with. I'm lucky being self-employed that I can work from home. When I was looking after somebody, family member, I could be at home and I'm there, but I'm shut in my office working, but I'm still in the building. And I didn't really want to be somewhere else and have an issue to deal with. So it's difficult, because I think that you've got those different angles, and the government in the UK is definitely pro getting people to use public transport and cycle, which a lot of people on the periphery of London hate. So I live nearer the centre. I love it, but when you live on the periphery, the bus services aren't quite so good. You maybe don't have the underground, and you're going, well, I'd rely on my car, and now they're making it really expensive. There's nowhere to park. It costs a lot of money. So I'm not going to cycle to wherever. And also the weather here in the winter, it's not. You don't want to arrive in the office soaking wet and freezing cold. So I think we've got that dilemma here, where we've got business and we've got the public sector who have a slightly different approach. But they pressure, when you build a new development in Birmingham as well, they will pressure that organisation to put in lots of bike spaces, not have many car parking spaces, just disabled, and encourage some money to go to the local bus company or whoever's running the buses to put in additional buses and build cycle lanes and so on. The one I've been working on, it's a brand new cycle lane going in, additional buses, additional trains, and the client has had to put some money towards that. So we'll let you build this building, but you have to create this, and we want to see people cycling in. Unfortunately, the next council along is very anti-bike, so they don't agree to a cycle lane. So that classic thing where there's a cycle lane which suddenly ends just with nothing for the next 2 miles, and then another one starts. It's a West London cycle lane that's really long, but it's got a gap in the middle because that council doesn't agree with cycle lanes.
That's right.
Because they're
Oh, that's why. That's why.
What FMs can do to sort of improve this is, I don't think it should be just on FMs. I think we should use our people kind of engagement abilities and our stakeholder management capabilities to bring the key players to the table, and to work collaboratively and not just in a silo approach. All too often, things like this occur whereby you don't know what, inverted commas, pigeonhole to put social mobility, social value into, and accessibility of whether it's an organisation accessibility, so to bring in diversity and inclusion, and open up that kind of policy. So for instance, in a place of work that was some time ago, they didn't know where to put a travel plan, and they knew that they needed to do a travel plan as part of T's and C's within the build of their development within their site. However, because they didn't know where it went, it sat with HR for a time, and then it ended up transferring over to myself with I'm honest, I had no experience in whatsoever. I learned a lot from the lady within HR who, again, she learned, self-taught herself. And I think what we need to do is bring our stakeholder management experience to the table, and both, not just internally, externally as well. So what Bernard was saying about the engagement, there's councils, for instance, there's Derby City Council who has, I've forgotten what the department is, but they support businesses developing travel plans, and that is a mixture of, do we need to do some postcode mapping to see how we draw people in and support people getting to work from a public transport point of view, and then that links in with your whole, but it's CSR but also ESG kind of targets as well. But how do we make that easier from a collaborative approach? And just, I think we need to understand that it shouldn't just be on one person or one department to fix.
But that's I think good what you're saying is because it's not regular in all organizations that it's common sense that you cooperate with HR and with IT, for example, and facility management. They need to come closer to each other to think about the whole package and not only about one part or their own responsibility. So it's good to hear that that's already entered into your organization. And I think that a lot of organizations need to make this step and really let it occur that this transformation is starting.
So I one client I worked with, they had bike storage.
Yeah.
That's all they had. And I spoke to some of the people that were cycling in, and I discovered because what they actually needed was some showers and a drying room. So if they cycle in and it rains, they need somewhere to dry what they've been wearing, and they need to have a shower because they're hot and sweaty because they've been wearing some waterproofs probably. So it's not just it has to be the whole picture. You can't just. I see this sometimes. Oh, we've built some bike storage. Well, that's not the whole picture.
Yeah, and in a similar way, our facilities always cater for, it's both it encourages alternative modes of transport to have showers within our facilities, and they're really top-notch, really great standards, and the showers are amazing. But it's not just about that, we've got showers in, so therefore you can now cycle to work. It's about, again, bringing all of those elements to the table to encourage and sustain those alternative options, which then circle round into making it more accessible from a society point, social point of view.
I think it's interesting, the examples that you mentioned, they're all related to the company culture as well. And it's important to bring all of the departments together in those efforts, as you ladies mentioned. But how do you do that? So how do you bring these people together to work towards those efforts?
Unfortunately, I think it can be a real struggle. So I did some work with a German company who I was very disappointed that the MD had decided to get rid of the staff room, have himself a cellular office built, and put everybody on benches. So they all had their own individual desks. They all went to benches. And he was adamant, this is how I want the office. Such a retrograde step, something that would really, those employers are not going to be happy about that. And there was no way I could convince him otherwise. He'd made his mind up. The flip side is there are other employers, other companies where they go, they really, really do embrace diversity, they embrace disability, and they make a really, really strong effort to make sure everybody feels welcome at their organisation and in the building, and they adapt to whatever people's needs are. It's not easy when you've got a CEO who's, they've got an idea in their head. I think we have some examples in the world of people who've got a fixed idea, and it's probably wrong, but...
Yeah, but in my perspective, it's also because a facility manager, mostly facility management organizations that are positioned somewhere in the cellar or somewhere no one can see them. So I think also the facility manager needs to step up and to do the stakeholder management himself. He needs to find a place at the boardroom table to discuss these kind of topics and well, we're just the guys who want to do the practical things, who wants to be in the operational phase of the organization instead of thinking, making policy, thinking about strategies, how to change the culture in an organization. So yes, I think also we need to start with ourselves and, well, take that responsibility.
I agree.
Yeah.
I've got one final question for you, so I'll start with you, Bernard. If you could challenge the FM industry to take one bold step towards sustainability today, what would it be?
I definitely think that everyone coming into FM should do a course on sustainability as one of the key starting points, rather than maybe doing it later or never doing it at all.
Perfect. Sarah?
And I go first.
Natalie?
No, I think I started this conversation also with that one, is that we need to have a knowledge. So it's a little bit the same as what you are saying, but also maybe visiting outside, visiting other organizations, visiting these kind of events to see what there is already happening around you, and take that practical business cases towards your own organization.
Yeah, I think a mixture of the two. Obviously, I'm going to say that, aren't I?
Yeah.
So I think educating ourselves and keeping ourselves up to speed with the current topics and what our value as FMs can deliver within the sustainability realm, because it shouldn't be separate. It should be intrinsically linked. It's like a Venn diagram. So if, for instance, you have an organisation that has got an environmental arm or department, it should cross over into FM, it should cross over into HR, it should cross over into health and safety. So again, about us working holistically and not just saying, oh, we have an environmental coordinator, advisor, manager, they can just do it. Yeah. Actually, how do we bring that to the table? And again, I suppose I circle back to the whole kind of our stakeholder management skills, but I think constantly our thirst for knowledge as FMs, if we learn about sustainability practices, that will be a big element. But also, what does good look like? How can we bring that to the table? How can we learn from different organisations, again, not being siloed within ourselves? How can we learn about what A company did versus B company, and looking at picking apart the opportunities? And I think also opening it up to the employees, to involve them more, because I think if you open it up to people, and I think this sort of answers a little bit about your question about how do you engage people, if you open it up to employees to gauge who can be your champions on the shop floor and at every level of the business, because if you've got that engagement within the core employee, again, we sort of Venn diagram with HR in that, that having champions within the workforce will drive and support that change. And I think we need to have, I know it sounds very maybe archaic, but some form of surveys to engage what do you think, how do you feel, and then you can sort of approach those people to see if they're willing to get involved from a champion perspective, because I don't think we can do it alone.
No, it's correct. Yeah.
Like I like the kind of terminology. I think it's probably a phrase coined by many different sectors and organisations, but our diversity makes us stronger, and to have those different types of people throughout the organisation and to learn from our peers will make us stronger in that area.
I like how you said we can't do it alone. It's a beautiful conclusion of this podcast. Thank you all so much. This was the EuroFM podcast, live from the workplace event here in Birmingham. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Bernard. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Natalie. And we hope to see you on the next one. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
EuroFM podcast. FM without frontiers.